Well, buenas tardes and guten Abend to everyone. Today let's talk about Germany, the engine of the European Union. Indeed, there are problems there again. Every day things aren't going too well. Nowhere really. We were chatting here recently and someone asked me, Max, where do you think one could go to wait all this out? But now, wherever you go, there are problems everywhere. But subscribe to the channel and we'll start looking into it. Look. The first problem is that, besides everything I've already mentioned and what I've talked about in the videos, the Rhine has become very shallow. What does that mean? That means shipping and logistics are suffering. Just look at this photo to see how shallow it's become. About 1 in 5 shipments in Germany goes through inland waterways. By the way, that's billions of dollars, considering the capabilities of this country. Because of the drought in Europe, not only the Rhine has become shallow, but other rivers as well. That's why there are huge problems everywhere. But in the Rhine, the water level has dropped below critical. What problems can this cause? For several weeks, this water level has remained like this, getting lower and lower. And the depth of the river on August 10th near one of the towns did not exceed 16 centimeters. But what do you think? Can any vessel pass through such water? Of course not. You can't even launch a boat here, maybe just a paper boat. But paper ships won't carry the economy despite all the hopes of powerful leaders. And the depth of the river in the navigable section is about a meter deeper. The minimum allowable depth for commercial vessel navigation is 40 centimeters. Naturally, with 16 centimeters, but no one will do anything. On top of that, we have to load the vessels less, because the draft is very deep if it's fully loaded. And those notorious 40 centimeters are also not enough. The operators comply. Accordingly, the ship operators use data from the measuring station near that very town to understand what volume the cargo barge can safely carry. And at the moment, practically, they can safely carry each other. I mean, just themselves. That's how it goes. And as we used to say at school, a brick floats down the river, wooden like glass. Well, let it float because it's foam plastic. Or maybe we don't need foam plastic. Here, everyone does as they please. Foam plastic would float, but commercial vessels not so much. The problem concerns not only the Middle Rhine, the 130-kilometer stretch from Mainz to Bonn, but also others. The water level has dropped significantly. Records were literally set in cities like Cologne, Düsseldorf, Emmerich, Rhine, and also on the right bank of Duisburg. Duisburg is an interesting name, of course. By the end of this week, the section of the Rhine near Kaub could become completely unsuitable for navigation. This means that the lion's share of shipping will come to a halt. Here is a map showing low water levels in major cities of Europe. And it turns out that the water levels are dropping significantly everywhere. Journalists here are asking us how the drought will affect Germany's economy. And they answer themselves badly because if shipping stops, the logistics sector sounds the alarm. And considering that logistics are not great around the world right now, you can't expect anything good. To be specific, right now it's like, I don't know, the last straw that broke the camel's back. Because right now the German economy, thanks to the powerful leaders of this country, for example Patagino Zemerz, is already struggling with its finances. And on top of that, well, it's really not good at all. Germany still uses rivers and other waterways to transport about 5% of goods across the country. Most of these are iron ore, coal, sand, and petroleum products. As you can guess, these are things that industry cannot exist without. And overall, these 5% turn into a larger share of goods specifically for industry. Things that are absolutely essential. Without them, the blast furnace won't work and nothing else will either. Basically, you won't be able to produce any iron, steel, or smelt cast iron. So what's at risk here? Here it's our military equipment. Even Mercedes switched to making all sorts of tools of war. And if they can't build this, then they won't be able to shift the economy to a war footing like they're planning. That's bad in itself, this whole war footing. But it would be even worse if these plans fall through as well. Well, what can I say? Talented people are talented in everything, and talented leaders in the worst sense have an even greater impact on everything around them. It's like, Midas, who turned everything he touched into gold. But if you look at any of the modern state leaders, whatever they touch turns into a mass that you definitely can't call gold. It's brown in color, very specific, and it has quite a nasty smell. Next, what do they say about us? In 2023, the European agency Eurostat calculated that the Rhine corridor, the section from the Dutch port of Rotterdam to the German-Swiss border, accounts for about 40% of freight transport in ton kilometers. In the same year, it was reported that every 30 days of low water on the Rhine leads to about a 1% drop in Germany's industrial production. And that's not a small number, again, for such a large country like Germany. So, if we have 90 days in the summer, and during the summer the Rhine doesn't get the necessary amount of water, that's minus 3%. Even a temporary drop in production by 1% is a significant blow, and it's already extremely difficult to adapt. In better years, one could assume that Germany's economy, or that of any other country facing such a disaster, could adapt a little. Somewhere it decreased, so to speak, somewhere it increased. But now, since it's decreasing almost everywhere, there's nothing to adapt to. And patching up this sock that's falling apart in your hands is becoming more and more difficult, if it's even possible at all. And the German Economic Institute in Cologne expects Germany's GDP to shrink by 0.4%. And this will nullify the expected economic growth, which, according to the most optimistic forecasts, was supposed to be 0.5%. An economist, one of the specialists from Germany, states that the prolonged disruption of shipping on the Rhine could completely stifle the tiny growth that we have. And other experts predict even worse, losses of 1 to 2 billion euros just in the third quarter of this year. And it's the very foundation, the pillars of the economy that suffer the most. That's the steel, chemical, and energy sectors. The Rhine could actually split into two parts. Due to a lack of rainfall, all this could lead to the formation of two separate sections. From the north, shipping will continue between the North Sea ports, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and Antwerp, and the Cologne region via the Rhine and the canal system of western Germany. In the south, shipping will be routed along the tributaries Neckar, Moselle, and Main, as well as on the main Danube Canal. It is considered a key global link on the transportation route to southeastern Europe and back. And in between all this, goods will have to be shifted to other modes of transport, for example, the railway. And can you imagine, right, the cargo, how much time and money these logistics operations cost? For transporting by rail as well, and then another transfer. It's like in ancient times, I don't even remember if it was the Vikings or not. Basically, first they sailed, then they dragged their ships over land, and then again they launched them back into the river. Honestly, I don't remember when or where it was, but it did happen. Well, this is pretty much the same thing. The authorities, basically different things are happening here. And here they're discussing whether it's climate change or not. Well, naturally, it's thanks to climate change. Well, these talented leaders are even discussing this. And why, excuse me, is a deep river becoming shallow? Is it because of some magical gestures by some psychics or what? Or did the Anunnaki come and drink all the water? Or is someone stealing it all? Is it Putin or Zelensky? What, are they stealing water from the Rhine? From Rome? Here we come to the next point. After all, the economy of Europe, especially Germany, thanks to the efforts of Ursula von der Leyen, now depends heavily on petroleum products supplied from the US. A certain agreement was signed for almost 1.5 trillion euros. And that's not a slip of the tongue, and that was this winter. And out of that, about 800 billion are specifically intended for purchasing those very petroleum products from the US, to be continued. Suddenly, the US has fewer and fewer petroleum products because the US upset Iran, and now they're fighting with all their might against them. This country turned out not to be a tough nut to crack and is quite good at making plans to destroy other countries' plans. At the same time, the Strait of Hormuz is almost blocked. American and most likely Israeli ships are not allowed to pass through it. And what does that mean? This means a decrease in the volume of petroleum products that the US can sell to other countries. Economy. Recently, the Germans destroyed their own nuclear power plant with their own hands, because, it's supposed to be harmful. Let's build windmills everywhere that now nobody even knows what to do with after 30 years. And this composite material, you can't recycle it, nobody knows what to do with it. Then there are solar power plants. Many of them are also reaching the end of their lifespan and need to be replaced. And this photovoltaic cell, which burns out over time, well, figuratively speaking, of course, the processes are more complex than that. It becomes unusable, so it also needs to be replaced. But a nuclear power plant, it would be guaranteed to work for 50 years, and after refurbishment, another 50 years. And you can keep upgrading it indefinitely. Well, with certain caveats, of course, but these are new technologies, not the old ones. V-Air, I think, 2000 or whatever they were called, those reactors and their systems. That's how things are. So, the US Strategic Petroleum Reserve is at its lowest level since 1983. Crude oil reserves, for the first time since January 1983, my God, for whoever cares, have fallen below 300 million barrels. Last week, the reduction was also several million barrels, and the total reserve reached almost 300 million barrels. And Donald Trump made a decision last week, in March actually, to release 172 million barrels. The technical condition of the reserve is generally at risk due to aging infrastructure, and as of December 2025, more than a quarter of the gas reserves were unavailable for extraction. The maximum capacity of the South Pacific Oil Reserve is 714 million barrels. The minimum amount of oil required for safe operation is 70 million. In short, these are just some talented leaders, like I said, everywhere. This one has a problem with oil. Why is he meddling in Iran? So that world peace suddenly breaks out. These guys have no energy. Let's destroy nuclear power plants. Let's destroy thermal power stations. Let's build a bunch of wind turbines with solar panels. And let's buy oil and liquefied gas from the US at triple the price. Yeah, they've really run things into the ground. And all this leads to the fact that now everyone wants to go back, well, most people, to the old times when things were pretty good. And for example, almost half of Germany's population, at least among those who respond to surveys, of course that's an extrapolation, want Merkel to be a suitable candidate for the position of federal president. Despite all her shortcomings and despite all the problems that were caused, let's put it that way, with her involvement, well, she was still much better than the current one. So she is a real heavyweight compared to the little pebbles that came after her. The same, what's his name, liver sausage. That's what the Ukrainian ambassador called him, or rather this Porto Portagenosa Merz now as well. His popularity will soon be negative, simply because even his own party is already discussing the possibility of removing him. And the old politicians, those who still had at least some reserve of grey matter in their heads, well, people want them to come back. According to the results of a recent poll conducted by the Forza Institute of Sociological Research, 47% of respondents consider former Chancellor Angela Merkel a suitable candidate for the position of federal president. 48%, however, consider her unsuitable, and 5% of those surveyed could not give their assessment or don't even know who Angela Merkel is. But these are also talented people, who don't know who led your country in the past and haven't even heard that name or position. Well, you have to have some... Alright, let's not. The Germans are also gradually coming out to protest against the talented representatives of their leadership. For example, in Plauen, 10,000 people came out to demonstrate against the federal government. They demanded its resignation. The nationwide initiative Unity for Germany called for participation in the rally, and the number of participants was about this many. 400 people took part in the counter-demonstration. Well, probably all sorts of people came out there, yes. What does the protest movement demand? Holding new elections, that's one. Lowering taxes on electricity and gas, that's two. The introduction of a nationwide pass for 29 euros, that's number 3. Reforms of public broadcasting, 4. But public broadcasting is really strongly geared toward that. And recently I watched some video, and there was some woman front. What is it called in German? Well, never mind. It doesn't matter. She stated that among all those beachgoers in Ceuta, out of 60 or 70,000 people, the majority were people with higher education. 60,000 vacationers from Morocco are people with higher education. Well, and you saw those specialists there. Yes. Nevertheless, in Germany, in order to deal with all these problems, they suddenly decided to open a center for countering hybrid threats and to further expand the powers of their intelligence services. So, when do intelligence services usually act? When there is some kind of threat to the government. They are usually strengthened not when the population needs help. Not at all, that's never happened. And here we go again. They are usually strengthened precisely when it's necessary to, well, there's a word for it, clamp down on the population. And now, a cheerful representative of the German establishment announces that the intelligence services need to be strengthened. First of all, to increase the staff of these agencies, to expand their powers in the field of digital technologies. Well, you get the idea, right? You know what that smells like? That's surveillance of people. Passport-based internet access. Which, by the way, do you really think this new rule that children under 13 can't access the internet is just for no reason? No. Their document calls for it. And it's not just their document that calls for it. Passport-based internet access has been a long-time dream of many governments, so it's not that simple here. And about stricter laws on infrastructure protection. Among other things, it is proposed to strengthen surveillance over representatives of certain groups in the digital sphere, to identify everyone who is planning an attack on infrastructure. But there's also this. There's a cartoon called South Park. They once showed the principles of hunting animals you're not allowed to hunt. In some US states before, I don't know about now, but they introduced it. If an animal poses a danger to you, you can shoot it. So the scene is like this. One guy has a rocket launcher, another has an armor-piercing rifle, and a third has a flamethrower. They're walking, hunting, and then they come across some squirrel, and the son of one of these guys yells, "Ah, it attacked me!" So this whole armed crew starts bombing this squirrel. They came across a phone there. "It attacked me, Dad." Everyone bombed it. So that's basically what I'm getting at, because all of this, it's dark humor. And it carries over to what's happening now. Oh, so they found some guy and said, "Oh, he's shady, let's check him out, Let's dig into all his dirty laundry, both literally and figuratively. Let's do everything to find out what he's up to. What messages does he have? Who is he even messaging with?" And basically, it turns out that there are representatives of this very leftist group they're planning to fight against. There are hundreds of thousands of them. Anyone can be made to fit this? At some point, somewhere, you like something on Facebook. That's what's happening in many countries right now. With these likes, judging by what's happening in Ukraine, in Russia, and in some other countries, this is spreading to Europe as well. The Paradise Garden is just becoming more and more beautiful. Well, regarding the new law on the protection of critical infrastructure, I have nothing to say here. And on top of everything else, there's this very strange center. You see, the same guy is planning to open the same new center for countering hybrid threats. The main task is to detect and prevent espionage, sabotage, disinformation, terrorism, and other forms of hybrid threats. The center will coordinate and slow down the actions of the police and security services, which will also be strengthened, and you could also call it espionage. Some man or woman walks by, or a child in a stroller passes by some government organization. Look, a spy. Let's investigate him. Maybe let's put him in jail. Someone drank somewhere at the wrong time, so in his file they'll say, "Look, what a criminal. There's just nowhere left to put another mark on him." And the new structure is planned to complement the existing security architecture. But of course, there are also threats from different countries. And all of this, basically, all these countries, I think it won't just be in Europe, not just in Germany now, but in any other country as well. Now they will strengthen so-called security measures, or rather, strengthen measures to control their own citizens. And this is simply inevitable. And never the inevitable, as they say, these cowboys. This is a threat to all of us, actually. When you start being heavily controlled, this has happened before. It usually doesn't end well. It ends with people starting to abuse those very surveillance tools. Hello, they'll set up more cameras. Then they'll say you can't do anything without an app on your phone that tracks you. It's for the safety of children. Because look, something happened to some child over there. And it does happen, really. Now, all children, for example, will be required to install some kind of safety app on their phones that sends telemetry about everything around, including nude photos of their parents. Well, I'm exaggerating, of course, just joking. But everything seems to be going in the wrong direction. And on top of that, the economy is going to hell. Excuse my language. It's fun everywhere. By the way, write in the comments what you think about the question I raised at the beginning of the video. Where's a decent place to live right now, more or less? And again, there's no threat of war. There's no threat of being drafted. There's no threat of having your money taken away. There's always some risk, but at least it will be small. I'm waiting for your answers. Bye, and don't forget to subscribe.
Idiots are the most powerful organization in the world. They have their people everywhere.